How's it going, everyone? This video is going to be over displacement and the lack of displacement. ICT's mentorship teaches you to focus on displacement, but a lot of people don't realize what you can take out of the lack of displacement. So for those of you that don't know, displacement is just large aggressive candles with closes in the high or the low, such as here, right? Displacement candle, but you want to see it over structure. So if you notice these aggressive candles break structure up, that is displacement over structure. Now, the lack of displacement is if, for example, you take this low, you can see if you want to see displacement, you want to see aggressive moves and closes below. You can see we move below, immediately back into the range. Another example here, if you're going to displace below this low, you want to see large aggressive candles down, you have the failure to displace down, you come back in. So for example, we're going to go to today's range. So in today's price action, we're going to watch from RTH open essentially. And so you notice we have previous day's high right here. And we take it, right? And you can see we're not really displacing over this high, but we do have RTH open coming up. So the one thing you want to notice is after we take this liquidity, are we going to aggressively break below and look for shorts? Or are we going to fail to break below and continue higher? So if you notice, we put in this little low here. Do we displace below it? You can see right there. We fail to displace even below this short-term low. That means we're likely to go higher to these highs. Once again, fail to displace below this low, and then we go higher. So now that we're here, right, we're reaching into RTH open, and we want to see what happens. Okay, aggressive price action down. We break this little low here. I prefer to wait for a higher time frame low to be broken. And there's our displacement down. So now we're going from buy side of the curve to sell side of the curve. So now what you want to focus on is when we put in lows, do we continue to displace below them and continue our bearish trend, or are we going to break above highs? So we'll watch. You can see right here, we put in this little tiny low, aggressively broke below it. That means we're going to continue lower. Another low, aggressively broken below, continue lower. Okay, here's a low, and then now we put in a high. If we're going to be bearish, we want to break through this aggressively. Bullish, we want to come back up and break through this aggressively. The lack of to do so on each side leans in the other direction. What do I mean by that is, see how we break below this, but come back right back into the range? Not really the displacement you want to see, right? You can see big closes below, big closes below. So watching this, you can see right here, that little low as well, broke through and failed to displace, and I'll actually put in an SMT with NQ. Now what we want to watch is, are we going to go up here and fail to displace over this high and come back down, or are we going to get displacement above it? So watching this, we get aggressive candles that displace over it. So now we're on the buy side of the curve. So now what you want to look for is, are highs going to be continued to displace over aggressively, or are lows going to be displaced over aggressively, or the lack of each? Watching this, we put in a high, and then we put in a low here. So what we want to watch is, once this forms, right, okay, didn't break over this aggressively, so we're likely to go a little bit lower here. Do we break below this aggressively? Okay, not very aggressive. You can see, broke, come right back into the range. And what does that mean? Well, it's the same thing as a broadening formation, power of 3. Let me explain. You fail one side of the range, you want to see the other side of the range. That's your broadening formation, or your power of 3, right? Consolidation, manipulation, then you'd want to get your distribution. So you can see, we distribute up. So taking that off, we now have this low, and you can see this high was broken through aggressively, right? So we're likely to continue higher. Put in a new high. If we're going to continue the trend up, we will have to break through that aggressively. And wherever our low comes in, do we displace through this aggressively? No, right? We continue higher. Now you notice we took this previous high from the morning. What do you want to look for? You want to look to see if we put in a short-term low and aggressively break below it. Let's see. There's a little low. We broke through this, but where we ran into a fair value gap, not very aggressive, comes right back into the range. When you do this, you're likely to see a new high. There you go. Break through aggressively. Now, if this was to sustain, right, you'd think we want to go higher. But what happens? We immediately aggressively move back in. So on a lower time frame, that's your BPR. And if you look, now where do we want to go? We want to break through this low because that's our intermediate term low. If we're going to continue lower, buy side of the curve here. If we go to the sell side, we want to break through this aggressively. If you look, retest that previous high. This is kind of your box setup if you've seen that. And there you go. Aggressive displacement. You can see how these candles close below this structure. Versus here, you can see one close, immediately back into the range. So now what do you want to look for? This little fair value gap here. Right? Also lines up with that breaker. That could be your short entry. And you can see, right, this point of interest. See how we're not displacing back through this range and into this fair value gap? We're struggling to reach into this. That is a good sign that we're likely to go lower. Continue lower. Now we put in this high. What you want to see is, can we displace over this? If not, we want to see aggressive move below here, right? To continue the bearish trend. Do anything? So when you see this, right, broadening formation, likely to go take a high, and you can see, can't really displace over this either, likely to see the other side of the range, broadening formation, aggressive move lower. And you can keep continuing this. So right here, we're going to break above this, we want to see aggressive displacement. If not, we want to see aggressive move lower to continue. There you go, aggressive move lower, and you keep continuing this. I hope this walkthrough kind of showed you what to look for in terms of displacement or lack of displacement. I'd say the most important things to look for is if you're trying to get into a trend on a buy side of the curve, you want to see lows taken without displacement, and that can give you entries to get long. And then when you're on the sell side of the curve, when you fail to displace over highs, that can be your short entries, right? Go back and look into your charts and just go back test this. When you're in a bullish trend or want price to go in one direction, what happens when you fail to displace lower? Look at those as your long entries. Hope this video helps. If it did, please consider liking and subscribing. Hope you have a great day. See ya.